Hi there. Welcome to Happy Hour.
We just can't get our act together.
Okay, we're going to start. I'm going to cut all that out.
Okay. Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Hi there. Welcome to Happy Hour with Ruth and Roxy. I'm Ruth.
I'm Ruth. She's Roxy. And we have dogs staring at us everywhere.
We do. We
so
do.
what are we drinking today, Roxy? And we'll leap right into it.
Today we are drinking Trading Post Brewery Blood Orange Wheat Ale.
It's
and
delicious.
It is delicious. And Ruth put little orange slices in it for us. And it's very refreshing.
It is
which
refreshing.
is really good because it's really hot
quite warm
today.
here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite warm. So warm that Scruffy was on my lap for a minute and then he was like too tired. So we have a cliffhanger kind of from last time before we get into.
That's right, we do.
We kind of have a. I kind of look like I'm a big marshmallow in this. This top is so loose. I just saw my reflection in there, and it was like,
it's a good top.
It is a good top, but it also makes me look like a marshmallow.
No, the flowy linen stuff is so
between like the dent in my face. And the wrinkles and my hooded eyes and my
okay, you guys,
marshmallow.
I'm just going to say everyone should do a podcast because there is nothing like looking at yourself for 2 hours while you edit on screen to be like,
to bring a lot of humility.
I am going to be my best self and love myself the way I want to love others.
Yes, exactly.
It is not easy, man, because you see all the flaws.
It also made me spend $200 in neck and face cream. Just saying. Because it was like, well, something's not working because every time I look, all I see are hooded eyes and wrinkles and this stupid. I got a dent in my face.
Just call it a dimple and be done.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to go on to better things. What are we talking about? Or a cliffhanger?
Yes, let's talk about our cliffhanger. So you start because this is your thing.
Well, we're taking the podcast on the road. Or
kind of.
Or maybe the high seas.
On the road and the high seas.
Yes.
Road, because it's a road trip first. We're
yes.
driving down to Seattle, and then we are going to hop on a cruise ship there that is heading up to Alaska.
Yes. And we're going to podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just the two of us and you guys.
Yes, and we're going to take you with us.
We might do something live.
I was going to say, we'll probably do a couple live hits. We're definitely going to tape at least one podcast, but we're going to try our hand at a bit of a travelogue, right? Because one of the things we'd like to do with all of you is to do some traveling and show you some places, and maybe one day organize some kind of a trip for all of us to go on. That would be really fun, but we have to get our feet wet first, and this seemed like a good way to do it. And it will be a beautiful test of friendship since Roxanne likes to stay up later and I get up really early. So
we're sharing a room.
So it may be that it works out perfectly because I could get up early and go get a coffee and take my laptop and then come back when it's time to bring you coffee. And in the evening you can,
I like being brought coffee, I have to say.
In the evening you can close the door if it gets chilly because I'm already asleep. Like it might just work. And I think we both understand and celebrate our differences, and we're pretty good at being alone together.
Yeah,
right.
I think so
like
too.
We could sit and read, you know,
absolutely,
and not have any conversation. And there have been times when we're just tired when we were on the last cruise, and we just kind of sat in the bar and had a drink, and people watch them, and there wasn't much conversation.
No. Because sometimes there's just not much to say. Yeah. And also, you know what? Like my favorite thing on holiday is reading a book. I don't read for pleasure during the day at home in my normal life. I just don't. I read for work. That's it. And then when I go to bed, stand back, man.
She reads a lot.
I am on my Kindle, and that's what I want to do. And I want to go to bed early enough so I still have an hour of energy to read before bed, an hour of eye time.
Yep. No, but you read a lot. So you and our friend Della are the two most voracious readers I've I mean, I get little happy marks from my they give you that report about when you're online because I read on my iPad, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
I do that and they tell you and they're like you've read 7,000 days in a row or something, right? Well, because usually even if it's at lunch, Paul and I will sit there and he tends to watch a sitcom because we work together all day and we don't need to talk at lunch, and I'll read a book, right? But it is an interesting, although I do have to say, when I said to Paul, oh, it's okay, me and Roxanne can be alone together. And he's like, I've never seen you two be quiet together. So we'll see, but it will be fun. We'll take you. It's the second week in August that we're going, and we'll give you lots of warning, when we're going to try to go live if we can, but some might be spontaneous. Yeah. It might just be a cool spot and we want to share it with you.
And also, I'm just going to say now, technology on the ship, Wi-Fi on the ship is just horrendous. Yeah. So the live may not end up working, but we'll do what we can. If we end up on
it might be
in
on
port
land.
somewhere,
in ports.
we can do that, and that might work.
And we'll
out
do
better.
a blog post with the ports we're going to. So maybe there's stuff you think we should see, or you'd like us to go see because you'd like to go there one day. And we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're just going to walk off and go around the little towns and stuff. We're not going to
do any mushing. We're not going to try our hand at the Iditarod or anything.
We're not
like
going
that.
looking for grizzly bears.
No.
Because, no.
At some point, you just say, that ship has sailed.
You're funny. Okay, so we kind of have a theme for today.
Yeah.
Which leads into why I'm wearing pearls, just saying. Wearing pearls. And I also have sneakers on. So can anybody guess? I got pearls and sneakers. Sneakers that Roxanne gave me, just saying. And they're Converse, if that gives you a little hint. Because...
Are hers Converse?
Hers are Chucks. Hers. It's Chuck Taylor Converse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right? I had to look it up.
That.
So we're talking about Kamala Harris, who we're pretty excited about, but there's a bit more to that's come out. And one of the things is for those of you who have been following what's going on, we're white, we're Canadian.
You might not have noticed.
Yeah. And we understand the assignment. Mm-hmm. And that's what got us moving, because I actually looked to see, because this started trending on social media. Scruffy's about to bark. Because, there's a fly. But it was trending on social media, and it really came up that it sort of, and I don't think I think it started primarily with Black women, and I think our job is to support our Black sisters and brothers and all of our American family and friends and like-minded humans in supporting her. We can't vote, we can't donate, but we can encourage others to vote, and we can share what her policies are and do that kind of thing on social. We can knock down any rumors if somebody says it to us. So we have a really small role to play, but we do understand the assignment of how important it is for someone who believes in women's rights, who believes in equal rights, who believes in social justice and wants to reform the justice system, because the time's come for our lives to get better, especially for those communities who have been discriminated against, who have been underserved. I was kind of making a list. And one of it was, so think about all of the people that Black people of color, women of color, and all women, the LGBTQ2S community, Jewish, the Jewish community, Muslim community, like so many people have had hatred towards them because it's fear, right? Like it's and some people are being fed a load of hate, unfortunately, and it's time to step up. But before, and I mean, we will fangirl a little bit, and then we will go on to, because I think most women have understood the assignment all our lives, right?
I think many have, yeah, and if not all our lives, then at some point we learned, because that's not something that I learned.
Right.
But I learned it as a younger woman, and then really came to learn it as an adult.
Yeah. Well, and because, I mean, you did come from a more conservative background, right? I came from I don't think my dad was necessarily a progressive. My mother certainly, I feel, was. But I think because I came from a house full of girls and a very strong female figure in my mom who had dreams of her own, right? It's a little different than someone who sees their role as one of two, right? And maybe the less, senior is not the right word. I don't want to say superior, but the less
dominant.
Dominant
is appropriate. I grew up in a culture that I would say is complementarian. I don't know if you know that term. So it's the idea.
Wait, I know contrarian because I am one.
Yes, because you are contrarian. Complementarian, and I probably should have looked up a proper definition for this first, but it's the idea that we're not the same, but we're equal.
Right.
And so it puts men into very specific roles and women into roles that complement them, as opposed to anyone can do any role.
Right.
It's very clearly defined.
Right.
And it's, to me, it always felt like a bit of a sop to equality. It's like, oh no, you're not less than me, but you're under this umbrella of protection from me because I'm protecting you.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what if we each need protecting? What if we can both protect each other? But so the complementarian thing is, it's part of the conservative evangelical mantra, and it works as long as nobody changes the rules. It works as long as everybody follows the rules, I should say.
So that's interesting to me, because the only real experience, I mean, besides from you and I talking, is sort of what I'm seeing in the U.S. right now is my experience, and you know, Trump's vice presidential nominee is very, you know, women, especially childless women, right, are there's something wrong with us. But the other side is he is very, you know, I think women are there to support their husbands, and you know, kind of thing, where it's a little bit like, you know, the woman's place is in the kitchen, kind of, right?
What's that rule in film? There's a thing that they do. It's called I think it starts with B. It's a test that they do on movies to look at female characters and say, do they have lines that actually have to do with their own plot line, their own story arc, and their own whatever, or are they there to look good, which means generally sexy, and to support the male character? Are you there to be a foil? Are you there because he's the hero and he needs to rescue a damsel? Are you the damsel, or are you a character in your own right? There's actually a test.
Okay, so look it up. But we can also, my sister writes scripts, and Beverly, you need to tell us these things, right? But that's just it. Like, there's a supporting role versus the protagonist role for women, right? And I think, but it is an interesting thing to talk about. I mean, this energy around, Kamala's candidacy and everything. And I mean, I got to say, I'm a big Biden fan, and the unjustly held prisoners from Russia just came home yesterday. So that was a really touching thing that they got it. What are you looking for?
I literally brought a pen out here and then lost it.
Like, you can use mine. But they literally landed last night, and I have to say, so what the reporting's been is, this has been a negotiation for years with so many twists and turns. But the other side of that is an hour before Biden sent out the statement saying he was removing himself from running, he was on the phone with, I forget what world leader, finishing the deal to get these hostages home, and he had COVID.
Holy.
Right. So this clearly elderly man has COVID. He's made this huge decision from his amazing 50-year career as a public servant, and yet he is still focused on bringing these people home, right? And so you know, this selflessly stopped, but he also was just focused on that. So I have to say a little fuck you to all the people that said he is not competent, because try having COVID and doing anything.
No kidding.
Right. So and again, I do think it was the right decision. I think it was an incredibly honorable decision to make, because there's a new energy, and lots of people that were feeling like it was a bygone generation that was running and stuff. I think, but he has been so supportive. So as we get excited about her, I don't want to forget how much he did for democracy, and not just for America. He did a lot for the U.S. because he's the president. He's done a lot for democracy. Right. And,
well, the entire world looks to the U.S. Right. I mean, and what do they say about Canada? The U.S. gets a cold, Canada sneezes. It matters to us. It really what happens in the States, right? And it really matters.
And it matters that we have, you know, it matters that there is a world leader who has so much power. I mean, he is arguably the most powerful person in the world. And to me, it matters. He has so much integrity and so much honor and so much authenticity. Right. And I think that's what's like, that's sort of, for me, and I only really learned about him when he was picked as VP for Obama. Right. Because I mean, I was interested in politics before that, but that's when it became really interesting.
You know how I learned about him?
Help me.
No, actually, it predates you, believe it or not, but more from you. Parks and Rec, because what's her name? Leslie Knope. Yeah, Leslie Knope. Joe Biden is Leslie Knope's. What do you call it? Your when you're married and you're like, well, you know what, I'm going to be faithful to you unless
here's my
exception.
Yeah.
And she's like, Joe Biden is my exception. And it was adorable. So there's a few clips on there of her.
We'll have to find that.
Of that actress with Joe Biden. It's just so awesome. Cute. It's just awesome. And I'm like, I love that show.
And when they had the Biden Obama clips, like, did you ever see them? They were going for ice cream, and they would do things a little bit like what Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman do now.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like they would do things like, they would just be funny a bit on social about each other, and they'd show them going for ice cream. And then there were all the memes after Trump got in, where they were sitting laughing about something, and somebody would put, it's like, oh yeah, I left those fake Space Force plans in the drawer, right? Stuff like that. But it's like he is an incredible statesman. His foreign policy is amazing, but he's also just a really charming human.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And but Kamala has done something that certainly the U.S. needed. I think the world needed. And I mean, I got to say, so there's a whole thing online about, if you're part of the K-Hive, and it's a riff off of the Beehive with Beyonce, and the K-Hive is the Kamala supporters, right?
Oh, I love it.
Which is really awesome. So one of the things, and it didn't arrive in time, so we'll wear it next time. But for Roxanne and I on the cruise ship, I got us T-shirts that say, and I actually got one for my sister and one for my friend Michelle in New Hampshire too, that says, I understand the assignment, and it's got a picture of sneakers with stars around it.
I love it.
But it feels like we're part of a secret club.
Yeah.
Right? Because the only way you know about I understand the assignment is if you're paying attention online right now, right? And I bet you the maggots aren't.
No, probably not. That's really interesting. So we just started watching a show called Palm Royale.
Oh yeah. Why do I know this?
I don't know. It's a silly, I mean, we're not finished yet, so I don't know where it's going to go. Kirsten Wiig is the main character. Ricky Martin plays one of the other main characters. Wow. Josh Lucas plays one of them. It's a star-studded cast. It's very campy, and it's very fun, and it's set in the super uber wealthy, Florida season, the people. So anyway, there's a scene right in the very beginning where the main character is she's a girl from the other side of the tracks, right? And so she's coming and she wants to break into the wealthy set and be one of them. So that's what she does, is she's finding a way to cheat the system and get in. But right at the beginning, there's a scene where one of the women who's already in that world needs an abortion.
Oh my goodness.
This is in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember. I don't remember numbers. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's the 60s, and so there's a character, actually, Laura Dern plays.
Oh wow, those are all pretty.
They're big names, yeah. And her father's in it. Dern. Dang. Her father, whose name is Mr. Dern, is in it also. But so Laura Dern runs a collective of feminists, basically, at that time.
Right.
And they're all, supporting women's rights or whatever. And there's a big backstory involved with that. But she's got a connection to women who can facilitate abortions. And so this is neither to say we're for or against on either side here. What I'm talking about is a woman who sees another woman who is in a bad situation.
Yep.
And she finds a way to help her. She's like, you know what? I know you could really hurt me. You could really hurt me. You don't even like me. I need something from you, but you're not going to help me. But I see that you need this, and I can help you anyway. She understood the assignment.
Right. And that's just it. And for a second, I am not pro-abortion. I'm pro-choice.
Me too.
Right. But that's just
100%.
It. Right. It doesn't. Everybody has to make it where they are, but that's just it. And I think all along those lines, when it comes to, at some point we're going to have to pause because we're going to need more beer. But it comes along exactly that is sometimes you have to put your own personal likes or dislikes of someone out of the way for the greater good of perhaps womanhood, or perhaps it's our LG. I can't get these words out. I wish there was another. It's
just say the queer community.
The queer community, right? Or it's finding a way to support a community that honestly, it's like I've always been incredibly welcomed into the different aspects of that community. I mean, my favorite cousin was gay as pink icing, and he used to take me to gay bars all the time. It was fun. But the other, I don't have a full understanding of that community because I'm not gay.
Right.
Right.
So
like
how can you?
It's like, yeah. And yet
I didn't even know gay people existed when I was growing up.
But you're an ally, and I'm an ally, and not honestly, I'm not always a great ally, but I try really hard. And if somebody says to me, "Hey, I get what you're trying to do, but here's the thing," I see that as understanding the assignment too, to help educate me, right?
Exactly.
Because we want to do good things.
Yeah. Oh, you only know what you know at the time, right? And you do the best you can with the knowledge that you have at the time. So I'm the same way, and I have 3 daughters, super smart young women who are very happily ready to correct me and educate me on the way to do things, and I'm grateful for it. Doesn't always feel awesome.
No.
However, I want to learn. Yeah. And my one daughter has a psych degree, and in her psych degree, she studied, human sexuality was one of her focuses, and she will school you. She will school you on the letters that you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
And she'll school you on how to say the things that the people in those communities, how they need to be said. And so that you're not hurting someone. Or
but that's exactly right.
I'm losing my words.
Re-traumatizing.
Yeah, re-traumatizing. There we go.
But it is like, and I think that all goes back to, we understand the assignment, and we're okay.
I'm going to get beer.
Okay, I'm going to keep talking. But when we understand the assignment, and it's a little bit, it goes into that. We talked about the last one about being a crown fixer, right? Is that you step up to help. And I have to say, in my experience, any of the communities who are typically, disparaged, treated poorly, underserved, have things come at them, if they see that if my experience has been, if people see that you're trying, they are more than willing to welcome you in and give you some ideas of how you might do better. And we are all willing to do better. At my age, there are things happening in the world that are not things. I try really hard with pronouns. I don't always get them right. And I think it's really important. I'm happy. I am thrilled to death when somebody corrects me about a pronoun, right? I have a hard time as a person who uses words for a living. I have a hard time with they as a singular.
Oh, me
right?
too.
Except I will absolutely retrain my brain because that's the right thing. And I think we're learning, and us, and those of us who didn't have that expansion of society and of culture as children, we're learning it with older brains, right? So please be patient with us, but please tell us is the thing. And I think it goes understanding the assignment. So I went and I looked, and it started out a few years ago, 2021, with a hip hop song by a artist named Tay Money. I read the lyrics, I listened to it. I don't quite understand the connection. I think it's just a cool phrase, and people have sort of taken it and moved it. But I really think that Kamala Harris has brought out this real need for us to find our community, to find the people that understand the assignment too, and to help those who don't understand it, right? And I saw a post online that said, and it was a white woman that wrote it. So this woman said, we as white women understand the assignment. An important part of that is to follow the lead of our Black sisters and show up where and how they need us to support Kamala and to support one another. And if you've ever been lucky enough to be involved with a small Black community, like a social community, not a bigger, is you want to see women support each other, man.
Holy.
Right? And or I was lucky enough, the first time I went to New Orleans, I traveled there with a girlfriend, and we went to a Black church. We were the only 2 white people in there. So not only are we white, we're Canadian, so our accent stands way out there. And you know what happened? People were so delighted. They were inviting us for lunch after, and they wanted to talk to us about Canada, and they wanted to know what made us come to the church. And there's a lot of singing in the church I went to anyway. And oh my gosh, it was like being at the best. There was so much spirituality. To me, it was spiritual rather than religious. And I know they would have their religious things, but it was moving so fast. I wasn't catching any of that. It was just the community that they had. And they were so kind to not look at us and say, what the hell are you doing here?
So when I was in Bible school, which some of you know that after high school, I went and did a 2-year certificate program in a small Bible school in southern Saskatchewan.
This still makes my head spin, that there's such a thing as post-high school. Like it's post-secondary,
it's post-secondary,
right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's very specific, but it was a really good experience. And I because I like to sing, I was in the choir. The chamber choir did a tour at the end of every year, a 2-week tour. And the first year we did around we went up northern Saskatchewan, Alberta, a little bit into Manitoba, I think. And the second year we went south.
Oh.
And we went south, and we ended up singing in a Black gospel church.
Oh, wow.
And it was, wow. So I had the same experience you did, right? So we're in this community that is, they're using their bodies, right? Like in ways that my culture has a bit of a fear almost about the sins of the flesh are very real, right? So the flesh is suspect. So you don't dance, you don't use your body. There's a real kind of fear about that.
Flash dance. So, no, not flash dance. What's
flash
the other
dance.
One? No, flash dance is the one where they use.
Oh, flash the one. Yeah, is it?
Okay.
Footloose. Yeah. So these people though, they're using their bodies, and they're so full of joy, and they appreciated what we sang, which was awesome. Yeah. And they welcomed us, right? Yeah. Like it was really, really fun. It was such a fun experience.
And that's the whole message about I understand the assignment is. There is more that brings us together than separates us. And the fact is, like, diversity is actually, because who wants to be around somebody who's like them all the time, except you and I are kind of alike.
But here's the thing, like, we talk often, though, about being surrounded by, finding our group of like-minded people. And I struggle with that a little bit because, on the one hand, absolutely, you need the people that support you, that agree with you, but we also need the people who are going to be that bit of sand in the oyster, right? Who's going to give us a little bit of conflict, a little bit of rub, a little bit of pushback against what we think. Because when we only think the way we think all the time,
because then we're in our echo chamber.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But I think for me, when I say like-minded people, I'm talking about like-minded values.
Yeah.
So it would be more. It wouldn't be that we think the same, because you and I have a very different background, and as much as our values are alike. They're all just crazy, just saying. But as much as our values are really aligned, we often see the world we see the world really differently, but we end up in the same place.
Yes, right? I think that's right. Hey, Luna.
And Roxanne will often, because she's incredibly pragmatic too, right? And I think that comes from because you grew up and you didn't have a toilet in your house. Didn't you have an outhouse? We had an outhouse?
Yeah. We had a
bin?
Yeah, it was an indoor non-flushing toilet in the basement my dad emptied.
It was a little bit pioneer.
It was rustic. I loved it. Those have been the best years of my childhood.
It made Little House on the Prairie look like it was really modern, the way you've described it, right? Their house, they had an indoor plumbing, right?
Yeah, we had running water, and this was only 2 years, and probably
How old were you?
I was in grade 3 and 4 at the time. So what's that? 8, 9, something like that. Yeah.
You know, that age when kids are like, I want the mascara and the red lipstick and the,
no, not at 8, 9.
No, aren't they? Isn't that when they start like screwing around and doing?
Well, I don't know. I got a 5-year-old granddaughter. She's not doing it yet, but no, at 8 and 9, I was all about the puppies and kittens and the chicks.
Okay, and the geese but for the record,
for the average for the normal kid,
for the girly girl,
okay, yeah, for the girly girl, maybe, yeah, that was not part of my world. That's for sure.
But a very different, but you are pragmatic, and I think sometimes Roxanne will, she'll cut through I do this. oh, maybe this is happening, and what about this? And she's like, what's the end result? What was it? Was it damaging? But that's also
Really?
what you need. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool that you see that.
But it's really good.
I just see the, if my brain was one of those GPS things, it would be like, wow, is she lost?
No, it's, oh, look, we have a little guest host.
Luna.
There is Luna.
Luna, who's begging for someone to give her a bath because she's stinky.
No. And loving.
And loving. Okay,
No.
that's enough.
But it is really good. And I don't like, I think when I hear like-minded, I think we're aligned in values.
That's a really good distinction. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we agree on everything or that we're, because I think that we are both people who are curious, right? And that I think is probably something that we look for in the people that we hang out with.
But we're also curious about different things.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
And so I think, but then Roxanne will discover something and tell me, and it's like, I never thought of it that, like, and I think that's what you need, right?
Yeah,
and that is what you look for, because if you've ever been in a room, and I've never actually been in a room of a bunch of people like me, because I think I'm a little bit of a weirdo.
Are there a bunch of people like you out there?
There must be.
I'm now
trust the
afraid.
Universe. Yes, you should be afraid. But how boring would it be if everybody thought exactly like you?
No kidding.
Right?
Yeah.
Like even Ray and I don't often have, actually we have the same opinion a lot of times, but we butt heads. And you know what? It makes you think.
Guys are so similar.
But he makes me think about things, right?
Yeah.
Like we have I'm way over here progressive, and I'll get on any moving thing in any country in the world, and he's like, yeah, what's their license? Right?
But
super
it's good. Pragmatic.
But it is also really good for both of us, because I think I open him up a bit, and he actually makes me a little bit more responsible.
Oh,
right?
That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think everybody brings something, but your values have to align, or that's never going to work.
It's
right?
really interesting because you drive him crazy and he loves you.
Yeah.
Both those things.
Right back at him.
Right. Exactly. Right. Like, isn't that interesting? Well, also there's a little bit of that with me too, I have to say.
What, you and him?
Yes.
I was going to say, not us. I just love you.
Yeah. Yeah. We just got all the easy love, man.
Yeah.
Okay. You're too hot.
It's hot. But it is like, but going to, so I do want to say, so just a little FYI about Kamala, who, you know, the MAGA Republicans are mispronouncing her name, which is a freaking dog whistle about racism.
It's a deliberate act of disrespect.
It is.
Yeah.
But her mom worked at McGill University in Montreal, and Kamala went to, they call it middle school, we call it elementary school, I think. She went to middle school in Montreal, so she's got some Canadian in her.
Oh, cool.
Yep, which is really cool.
Cool.
Yep. So then she also, here's one more little fast fact about her, which makes me love her. I love her because she wears pearls and sneakers, but I also love her because
it's a good combo.
It is a real, and she carries it off, right?
Yeah, she does.
And to me, she's brought joy to it, and you don't have to be as deep into politics as I am, and you shouldn't be, but
nobody should be.
No, but she's brought joy to this, right?
Yes.
And now the comparison, right, to this divisive, sort of hate-filled, angry
and fearful
campaign is her, and she laughs, which they tried to mock and it didn't work, right? Because everybody supported her, and now there's Swifties for Kamala. And
yes. Oh yes. Okay, so her face when she is on camera, she is wreathed with a smile.
Yep.
She is laughing, like you say.
She's expressive.
And yet she is absolutely articulate, eloquent, and she is and this is her experience and career as a prosecutor, right? She is absolutely needle blade sharp when she says something. It is like right there.
She is a beautiful case study in a natural orator.
Yeah.
Right? She is I mean, Obama is really great.
Mm-hmm.
I think she has a little bit more because Obama could come across as a little bit elitist, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I think she's like down to earth, and exactly like, so while she attended law school in San Francisco, she lived with her sister, and she helped potty train her niece, right? And so this is her quote from 2019. "I'm dealing with this brutal stuff, dog eat dog in school, and then I'd come home and we'd all stand by the toilet and wave bye-bye to a piece of shit." And she said she didn't say poo, she didn't say shit, she didn't say, you know, a piece of shit. And then she said it put this place in perspective.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So that's so my my grandson Abel is coming up on 2, and they're starting to work on potty training. And my daughter says, "Yep, that's what we say. Bye bye, poo poo. Bye bye."
See, right? It's hilarious, but
It's
also
hilarious. Like she's real.
She's that,
right?
and actually, that's a really good point. She's real, and I think it goes back to I understand the assignment. If we can. If we can take that forward and we can all be more real, but we've talked a little bit about it, about your books, Roxanne, because I think going back to,
you just like slide from one topic to another with like nary a break in between.
I've been thinking about Roxanne's books as I think about I understand the assignment, because for all of Roxanne's career, she has written these books that keep going into women's fiction genres, old school romance genres, which we don't call it that anymore, really, right?
They're marketed as romance, but I was told early on in my career that my voice is not quite right, and I'm not going to get the readership, and that's proven true. My reviews are generally very, very positive, but I don't give the escapist fiction people want pure escapist fiction, and I can't seem to do that very well. I have to add in more somehow, and it's just and I've given up trying to change that. I just write the stories.
It's your voice.
Yeah, it's my voice, and in this series that I'm writing right now, my voice, I would say, is the strongest it's ever been. I am like, I don't care anymore.
But the thing is, she does care because she has been true. You have been absolutely authentic to your voice. So because I've been thinking about this since I thought about I understand the assignment, and I've been thinking a lot about how you have always stayed true to your purpose. And Roxanne talks about disability, she talks about illness, she talks about abortion, she talks about adoption, and
well, actually, don't talk about abortion because they told me like not
right.
But I will address unplanned pregnancy, and in this series in particular, it's purity culture that I'm talking about. So
right.
So
explain what purity culture is to people.
So purity culture is it's the thing that happened in conservative traditional communities as a backlash against the 60s free love kind of movement. And it was that, okay, people are out there having sex all the time and just being terrible, terrible people. So we're going to move now to, you have to remember the age had changed, right? Every home now had a car.
Right.
So I read this somewhere, and I hadn't actually made the connection, but the chaperoning of young people was an important thing, right?
Yep.
To keep people proper. Okay, so whatever. So by the time every home has a car, or every person has a car, you've now got this little pocket of privacy. So the idea of chaperoning, okay, that goes out the window. Humans are humans. Human nature is what it is. People, young people
are horny.
Horny teenagers are going to have sex. They're just going to have sex. And if they don't get to have contraception, there's going to be unplanned pregnancies.
Well, but that's like the reality of it.
Culture,
that's right.
The purity culture was that it attached a level of spiritual regulation to it all, and it said purity culture means that girls will they will vow, they will get rings given to them by their father to say, I promise myself to God and I will never let a man touch me until I'm married.
Okay, just for the record, that's creepy that their dad gives them
there was father-daughter dances, balls they called them, purity balls. There's a lot of jokes in that little
too many jokes,
right
man.
There. But the shame that was attached to it, and most of it, as always, landed on the girls, the women, because what, guys are still going to pressure you to have sex. Women, everybody wants to have sex at that age, so you're going to. So purity culture put a huge amount of shame, and what a lot of people have said coming out of that is, you cannot flip that switch. If you've been taught your entire life, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad. On your wedding night, you get to sleep with your husband. You think it's going to be good? Nope, because you think sex is bad. So these people then who even they subscribe to this mentality they would get married and then they'd be like, I was told this was going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And in fact, I feel dirty and terrible and I don't know what to do with this. And I'm scared to talk to someone because sex is bad. I can't talk about it.
Right.
So it really, really was hard on a whole generation. And a lot of women, and this is where my series comes in, a lot of women who ended up pregnant were encouraged in really strong terms, often sometimes forced, to give up their infants for adoption without actually wanting to. And there was no social structure in place at the time to support them.
When the typically young 16, 17 would disappear for a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, they would go visit an aunt.
Yeah.
You know,
or they go to school somewhere else.
They go to school somewhere else, yeah.
Right. But I think, so one of the things, because I have been thinking about as we prep for this episode, was I was thinking about it. I think your book covers are misleading to what's inside, because I was thinking about Where the Crawdads Sing and other books, and I think yours is a more serious, because it is deep. Like, I was laughing. So I read a lot of nonfiction, usually about politics, I have to say. But I also read, there's sometimes when you do want to escape. And yet your books, I was telling Roxanne, when I get them, I don't, sometimes I'll sit on the back deck and I'll have a glass of wine and I'll read this book that honestly, 6 months later, I try to buy again because I think I haven't read it. Right. But when
sounds great. I should read this. Oh, wait.
Yeah. But when I get her books, I have tea. I spend a couple of hours reading. I think when you're saying stuff like there's more to it. And it would be similar to like reading when the Crawdads Sing, or reading these other, you know what I mean? There's a
hugely flattering,
but there is a deeper element, and I am not taking anything away from that escapism because I like that. But I think yours, in my honestly useless opinion, is it's being marketed wrong.
It is, and it is where I have found a buyer, literally. Like, I found a buyer for my work, right? And I mean, every artist who is doing anything is just looking for somebody who's going to say, hey, you know what? You can make a living doing this. You can also. So I found I can produce material. I found someone who wants to buy the material. This is the readership they have, and so they market it as such. And I deliberately targeted romance when I first started writing. I mean, I first wrote, the first book I wrote, they told me when the publisher bought it, they said, oh, we're going to put this in our mystery line. And I'm like, what? It's a mystery? I didn't know that.
She's dark.
I wasn't thinking that way. I wasn't thinking with a marketing brain, but to survive as a working writer now, you have to be thinking marketing all the time. So that's how my books are marketed. That's how they do the branding. And
I think
for the most part, the readers that appreciate it, like, I don't get all the readers, because there's a lot of them that are like, yeah, I'm not going there. I don't want it. And I've learned to be okay with that. I don't have the sales numbers that a lot of people have, because I'm not giving the biggest group of people what they want. I'm asking more of them.
Well, and I think that's exactly it. But I also think that on a very different, in my opinion, more important level, but you're the one getting the checks. But but what you're doing is, because there are life lessons in your books, and it allows us to see into a world that sometimes like some of your characters have physical or mental disabilities, right? And I think, and I know how accurate, and you just had a review that talked about how
I did,
right?
which is really, really nice. I'm always terrified when I write something that I don't have. I mean, I'm an ordinary middle-class, middle-aged Canadian woman. I don't have a disability. I'm not gay. I don't have like a lot of things that
you haven't gone through this stuff.
I haven't gone through a lot of the stuff that I put my characters through, but I want to make sure when I write them that I've done at least as much reading as I can to get a sense. And I am a bit of an empath. So when I read something about somebody who's experienced a thing or lives a certain life, I really try to put myself in there. And I've had a couple of reviews that say I've nailed it for the last book, which is huge for me because I'm always like, oh,
And
when
that's
are they gonna find out that I'm actually a fraud?
No, imposter syndrome is a whole
It's a
other
whole
podcast
other
episode. We
podcast.
should do that. We should, but this was specifically about.
This one's about the main character has cerebral palsy,
Right.
And it is not part of his journey. It's
Right.
And I did that deliberately. This is not about someone overcoming cerebral palsy.
Right.
It is a fact of his life.
This is what this person lives
like
with.
he's got red hair or he's got glasses or whatever. This is just a thing about him. It's a part of a descriptor, and it affects his choice of career because he's chosen to he's very functional. He runs he's a horseman. He runs a camp for people who want to do outdoor adventures, and some of the people that come to him have disabilities, and he makes that accessible for
Right.
them. He makes that work for them, and then somebody gets hurt on his watch. But I was very deliberate about, I'm not making this about a guy who has cerebral palsy and this is his big wound in life. No, it's just part of him.
Of who he is.
It's just part of who he is, because that is how people live with disabilities.
Yeah.
And they do not want, you don't want people that are different from the mainstream in some way hate to be reminded of that.
Right.
They hate to be reminded of that.
Because you've researched into this, right?
Yeah. That is not, they don't want that. And also,
well, and honestly, who would?
well, no
right?
kidding. And cerebral palsy, you've had that from birth. So it's not like your life changed suddenly and you literally did have to learn to walk again or something. No, he's always had this. This is his life. This is who he is. And he is part of that. So yeah, to have reviews say, that seemed authentic, she's done her research, all that, it makes me, I don't sleep well at the best of times, but it really helps not give me something else to stew about in the middle of the night.
But also going back to understanding the assignment, you have been very careful, right?
Yeah.
To see it from the perspective.
Yeah.
Of the people that have either gone through what you're writing about, have what you're writing about, and I think that's what's like when you think about I understand the assignment and the beauty and magic of that is exactly that. If we could all just say, I understand the assignment, I'm supposed to be here to find a way to support my fellow humans.
Yeah.
Right? Because honestly, I mean, right now, understand the assignment is like keeping democracy in America. But there is and that's an urgent assignment. But there's a bigger assignment, and I think it really is about how do we reach out and reconnect. And this is a lot for me to say because I am not good at this point because I've tried really hard with Trump supporters and I have never got anywhere. But we're going to have to find a way to heal. And I think after Kamala gets in, and then we can look about how do we bring these people in, because the reason that they are so disenfranchised is something is mattering to them that we don't understand, right? Also, Fox News should be taken off the air. Yeah. But because I think they're being brainwashed. But the other side is when you think about the bigger picture of I understand the assignment, like I was thinking about how proud of you I am for you have consistently pushed the envelope to get people to understand, to do these things in what is typically a genre that I'm reading a book right now, and it's really fun and interesting, and it's easy to read when you can't sleep. Except every time they stop and have a little chat about something, they have virgin sea breezes. Right? They don't put alcohol in anything. And it's like, come on, man. They live at the beach and they're not putting like I'm not saying you have to drink all the time, but that's not realistic for most people. That's really interesting. I'm going to ask you more about that later. Yes, but it's one of those things where it's like, I was thinking, how have I contributed to the assignment? And I was thinking, I remember back in the day when it was like, oh, it's okay. We'll tell the comms people something. And I was like, nope, need a seat at the table or I'm not doing it. Right. And so I kind of pushed my way into the leadership table because it was like every time they come to me, it's like, I should have been at the table when you decided this because that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. How could they be deciding things and not having the communications people there? Because back in the day, because, I've been around for a while, back in the day, they saw us as, I'm going to give you this and you're going to spin it. And I kept saying, first of all, spin is like the worst swear word I've ever heard in my career. And so every time they come to me, it's like, I can't do anything with that because you made a decision without thinking about the impact.
Yeah. Oh, and that's one of the first things I learned about you was, I think you probably said something to the effect of, like, making a, I don't think you said the silk purse, sow's ear sort of metaphor, but
I'm sure I would have.
Maybe you would have, but
actually, what I say is, I can't put lipstick on a pig.
That's what you say. That's the one that you say, and I love that, right? Yeah. Because that's a little bit how I write my stuff too. It's like, you know what? If there's a bad thing happening, or if there's a scenario that I need in my book, I need it to be authentic. I'm not gonna I mean, yes, I'm writing fantasy in a way. Like, we all read to escape from our world and to see a world as we wish it could be, as opposed to as it is. But at the same time, I want it to be a realistic goal, right? So I'm with you. I'm like, no, if this is a hero who's done something crappy in his life, then he needs a big atonement, and
they need to acknowledge it, take responsibility, and say how it's never going to happen again. And that was always my thing. People would come to us, and like so many people have come to us, and it's like they'd say stuff, and they're like, "Can you fix it?" And it's like, "Can you?"
So I've talked about Romance Writers of America and the demise of this, the demise, not demise. It's not dead. It has declared bankruptcy, and it's
challenged right now.
It's challenged right now. Yeah, it lost 80% of its members, which was at its high point 10,000 strong. So they're down to 2,000 members now, which is rough. Anyway, one of the pivotal things that happened, and this was after all of the things started to come to light about how marginalized communities, marginalized writers, typically Black writers, they were told, well, you write for a Black publisher, you write for a Black imprint, we're going to house you in the Black section of the library, in the Black section of the bookstore. This is what was happening. And so RWA wasn't helping them at all, was not. So anyway, so after some of that began to be addressed, one of the stories that won the biggest award that they had at the time, which was called the Rita, which was a big deal, turned out to be a book where the hero was a white man who had participated in the Battle of the Wounded Knee and had participated in the massacre. And he was the hero of the book. And he, I believe, married an Indian woman, but I don't know the book well. So at any rate,
like indigenous Indian,
indigenous Indian woman at the time, what they called Indian, and it was. And I haven't read the book. I don't know the book. I don't know anything about the scenario, but that fact alone, that a hero could have participated in a massacre and remained a hero. I don't know what the hell kind of character arc you have to do to make that work. I can't imagine it.
No,
I can't imagine it. So apparently the people that were outraged about this couldn't either, and the award was withdrawn. And since then, that was just a part of the demise. But that's just one tiny example of not understanding the assignment.
Right. Well, right? And that's just it. And I think that goes back to the authenticity, and it kind of goes back to the whole, like what we talked about, is we're not always going to get it right. We understand the assignment. We don't always know how to execute.
No.
Right?
No,
how
exactly.
to implement or how to say things properly. Yeah. And I am grateful for those who say, hey, here's a better way, or here's the thing, or that might not be a door you want to open, kind of, right? And but it is an interesting thing when you understand the assignment, that if you, like, even to the basic level of, if somebody makes a joke that has racist, sexist, anti-Semitic undertones, I used to just walk away, and now I'm like, you realize what you just said? Like, I don't, before it was just like, I'm not participating. And now it's like, no, because either you know what you said and I'm going to call you out, or you don't know what you said, so I'm going to help you. So my first reaction is, I think I just heard this. Can you?
That's right? Such a good response. I am so bad at that. And I have been, throughout my life, it's been my challenge to react to things that I don't like in a polite, confrontational way. Like, not a confrontation, I want to start a fight, but to actually react in the way that I think is right, because my entire being wants to be less. Do not create waves. Do not create. But I had when we were renovating a house we lived in years ago, and we were living in the renovation at the time, and that's a whole other story. But
are those empty? Sorry to interrupt you.
They're both empty.
Okay, just for the record, we're splitting beer. It's not as bad.
No, it's not. And we had renovated a room above the garage so that we could live in it while the rest of the house got rebuilt. And so we had builders. We had a lot of people coming in and out of our house at the time. It was pretty stressful. But I had a builder who made a comment when I was there about Indo-Canadian workers, and it was a slur. It was very much meant to be a put down. It was a joke, right? It was a joke, just a joke, right? And contrary to my typical character, I turned and I said, "Oh, do you mean like my son-in-law? Is that who you're talking about?" And I don't actually remember what his response was, if he had any response. But for me, it was like, yeah, you know what? I have an Indo-Canadian son-in-law. I have a mixed race granddaughter that I will protect till I'm at hell's door.
Yeah.
Like, you are not going to talk smack about them.
Yeah.
Knock that shit off. If you want to talk about people who have bad work ethics, that's fine. Do not bring race into it.
Well, but that's just it, because
why would you do that?
Well, and that's the challenge. So one of the things that's been happening in the US, and Donald Trump was just at this Association of Black Journalists.
Oh.
Right? And I mean, honestly, that was a poop show. It was just terrible. But like, he really does. First of all, doesn't appear to respect women, but he really doesn't respect Black women.
Oh, really? The grab him by the pussy wasn't your first clue?
but it's like, these journalists are at the top of their game, and so first of all, there's a woman in sort of the Canadian music world who's called Denise Donlin, who I absolutely respect and hold her in high regard, and I'm an acquaintance, right? She was, and she wrote a book, and I think it's like, the title is In Heels and Backwards, right? Because that's how you get to success. So Black women.
And just explain the reference there.
Oh, so that's because most women have to get to success in high heels, walking backwards, while men just walk.
So
right?
Yeah, and the reference is to the dance pair of
Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers,
that's it.
Right?
She did everything he did, and she did it in heels and backwards.
But Black women, even more so, right? Because not only are they women, they're Black, right? And society has not acknowledged their power and their strength and their knowledge and their intellect. Like, it is just not. And when he insulted those women, in my head it was like, at this point, it's not like I don't have any Black women in my life, even like I don't even have close friends who are Black, but it was like, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's just like, oh my goodness, you know what? If somebody individually, if you don't like somebody, or you don't think they're a good worker, or you don't think they have integrity, that's completely different. You're allowed to do that. Doesn't matter what color, what gender, what identity they are. It doesn't matter. But when you cast an entire community with that net, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And I have to take that on, because I do tend to cast old white men with that net. Now, Joe Biden is no white man, and he is not of that ilk. So
that's a tough one, because when you look at a population that historically, and you can go back a long time, has had more power than any of the other populations around them, it's really tough to say, oh, I got to cut them some slack.
No, and I do like that, but that's an interesting conversation, because I know quite a few, not the majority of the white men I know, older white men, but I know quite a few who have been good allies.
Oh,
right?
yes.
You know what I mean?
And
so
those who have evolved, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, my husband, he's got me and he's got 3 daughters, and he is
and he's got me.
And he's got you. And he has evolved, right? Like, he is, and like all of us, there's room to grow, of course, but
there's always room to grow.
But he has And he would be like, no, I'm as redneck as I ever was, because he's got an image to maintain.
Because he's a boy,
and he's by no means anything near redneck, but
no.
But he will champion the underdog. He will champion the underdog, and I think, like, for me, that's often what it comes down to. Is ever since I was a little girl, I was always looking at, the puppy with a limp, the cat that got dropped by its mother, the bird that fell out of the nest, all the things that needed something, and they were always animals, but I had a thing for the underdog, and for me, it's always been that. Why is there a power differential? Those in power will always have an advantage over those without power. I mean, it's
no, that's fair, but it is interesting, because I think we see the world the same, except you stepped in and took care of the underdog. My reaction was to fight the oppressor.
Right.
But you know what I mean, because I'm not. Oh, that just went dark and it scared the crap out of me. It was like the universe was sending me aside. I am not confrontational. I don't like conflict, like all of it. But I will do it if you know what I mean. Like
you will. I've seen it.
Once, man.
It's cool,
man. But I will step into that role, right? Whereas like, and I think that's the balance of it, is you need someone to be there to lift the underdog up, and you need someone to tear the oppressor down. Yeah. And I think that's the perfect thing. But I was like, when we were talking about it, I think what we're seeing in this, in especially now that there's been a renewed energy about the election and stuff, is we're seeing so many women of every background and every socioeconomic and we're all stepping up, and we're leaning in, and we're moving it forward in a way that hasn't happened. When Barack Obama got elected in 2008, that was a campaign of hope. He's still a man.
Yeah.
Right, a black man, and I'm grateful that I also think maybe America wasn't ready, because I think Donald Trump was the backlash to a black man being in the White House.
Absolutely.
But the other side of that is all of a sudden now we have this historic opportunity to put not just a black woman, but a woman of color, right? Because she's got South Asian background, a woman, a strong woman, into the White House, and it looks like it could happen now. And like, what a shift for all of those young girls, and especially young black girls and black and young girls of color, is to look and say, that could be me.
No kidding.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna get my hair cut like Kamala.
I'm trying to think of her haircut. It's like yours.
No, it's not. She's got layers. Okay.
Oh.
Come back next time. See if I've got layers.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good.
I don't know. We'll see.
But that's good.
Now I got to see if she's got room for me.
She always has room, because I'm like a planner, so I book like 4 weeks ahead. She's
like,
hey, do you have?
It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I can't stand my hair. Have you got an opening for 10:30? That's me.
We'll have to have Briley on, who is magnificent. We'll have to have her on for style and like, she's a young person, because I think she might still be in her 20s.
I think she is still in her 20s.
And it's like, man, that kid,
she is smart,
is on it,
and she is on it, and she's one of those, like, she would come to me and say, yeah, that's not going to work for you. Let's do this. What do you think of this? Let's do this, and then it'll be like, that's the best haircut I've ever had.
Right? And she is absolutely comfortable in her own skin. She is incredibly skilled at what she does.
Oh, yeah.
And she has the technical skills for the hair, but she's also got the psychological therapy skills that, honestly,
she does.
You leave like getting your haircut with her, and the world seems to be a better place.
It's
right?
true.
Like, she is. Well, we will have her on, but and we will tag her on this, because she is magnificent.
I love her.
Right?
I love
right?
her.
But
I don't like A, making appointments, B, going to appointments. It's like, I just want
like nothing.
I just want to stay in my house. I have to plan something. Why can I just? So all through COVID, I just cut my hair myself. I'm like, that's just.
I didn't cut my hair, and then I looked 100 years old. I looked like a mountain woman.
No, you didn't.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so for me to get out and have somebody actually, do something for me.
And she'll say, why don't we just try this? Like, I went, when I first first I went to her, and then COVID hit, and then my hair was really long, and I went into her, and it was cut it off, and she's like, let's just take a few inches off until you get used to it. Let's just do this kind of thing. But going back to this understanding that I understand the assignment, there is a camaraderie that is, it's like a secret society a bit, because there are many that won't understand it. But I promise you, because we're going to wear our T-shirts on the cruise, which will be full of Americans, right? Because it leaves from Seattle. And I bet you we make new friends because we wear those.
I think that you should be
ready to get
sending
punched.
Messages to the universe or praying or whatever
that
that
I don't
means
get
to
punched.
you, that she doesn't get punched, that we both come out of it alive.
I grew up in downtown Toronto. I'm not scared of them.
I'm not scared of them either, but I think there might be some interesting conversations that will happen.
But I have decided that I'm very open, and my new thing to say to those who support Donald Trump is, so does he reflect your values?
That's a good one.
And if they say yes, then it's like, well, then you need to support him.
Yeah.
Also, go sit over there.
Yep. Also, grab your own pussy while you're at it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right.
I just
can't.
But
that's just it.
Yeah.
But it is also, there is a beauty in this connection and collaboration amongst people, and it's not just women supporting her or using the
That's
I
true.
understand the assignment, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people supporting her.
Yeah.
But the connection and collaboration with people we don't know, and yet there is this thing of I understand the assignment. I mean, just try this, put an I, especially on Threads, which tends to lean liberal democratic.
Okay.
Put an I'm Canadian, I'm whatever, and I understand, I'm white, and I understand the assignment, and see how many reactions you get.
Okay.
My sister got like 400 people following her overnight because she said that.
So, that's interesting. Okay, so I don't use Threads a lot, but I'm trying to use all the social media to promote my latest book. And I went on Threads, and I think you can only use one hashtag. So she used the I understand
the assignment.
That's what I'm going to do.
But you should, because honestly, that's how we're finding like-minded people, right? And then you, because we're all invested in the same way, right? It's a call to connection. I was going to say a call to arms, but that's not what it is, especially with the U.S. and everything. I don't mean that. But it is a call to connection of those of us. And there was, so I have to say, so I went to Threads and was paying attention to the hashtags and what people were saying. And there was this really great Black woman who said something to, hey, I'm glad our white sisters are getting the message. Don't screw this phrase up for us, right? Because
meaning what?
Meaning, well, that pretty much meaning like, what I took away was don't say it if you don't mean it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. But I also think it was like, also don't trivialize it. Trivialize this, right?
Like
that's what I took away. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Unless I misread it and it was like, oh my God, don't screw up Kamala getting elected for us. Right.
It's funny though how hashtags like that will get. Like, I remember when Black Lives Matter came out, and it was like, then shortly after that, White Lives Matter. All lives matter. Black Lives Matter. Like, that's actually really funny.
It is funny.
But
insulting.
But insulting. It's completely insulting because you're absolutely missing the point of all of it. And it's like, you don't get to say, oh, me too, when you're not the population who's been targeted.
No, and that's just
don't get to do
and
that.
also, but it also goes back to the Me Too stuff, right? That was a really serious thing.
That was a serious
were
thing.
doing the hashtag Me Too, and everybody was explaining
Yeah.
how and it for me, it appeared to me, 90% of the women I know put hashtag Me Too, and that's all they put on their social media feed. Right? Because it was like, they weren't going to get into it. They weren't going to say, we've all been in a situation. Most of us have been in a situation. And I think it's amazing for those who weren't ever put in those situations. We've all been in that situation where either it was clear or implied that there was a payment for something.
So I remember reading, this was years ago, I don't know what the stats are, that 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And the definition of sexual assault is unclear, right?
Yeah.
Like, rape implies a certain thing. Sexual assault is a much broader definition, I think. But the idea of I have 3 daughters. Oh, well, which of them? Which
well,
of them
but that's
then,
just it.
right?
Or sexual harassment.
Or sexual harassment.
Which to me means one step, it might not have got physical, but you felt threatened.
I have not been sexually assaulted myself, but in my very small world, I can think of one woman that I know was raped, became pregnant as a result. I know of at least another couple of women who had to fight off an assault that would have turned sexual had they not been able to get out of it. Yeah. So without even putting any thought into it, I can think of about 4 or 5 women. And I know myself, I've been in situations where I was afraid, where I was very afraid.
Right.
I knew that if I did not get out of this, something bad was going to happen. Or if I did not say something or leave or move to another
area. Or manage
area,
it somehow.
Or manage it somehow. Something bad was going to happen.
You know what? It's
almost all women have that experience.
So Paul and I, my husband and I, walk in early in the mornings, and we walk. And he has a tendency, because we each have a dog, and one dog is slower or faster or whatever. He has a tendency sometimes to walk right here behind me, and I keep saying to him, "It's like don't do that." My everything in me knows that you're not going to hurt me, but my limbic system or whatever it is starts moving. And it's like crap. And it's like everybody's known. How many women do you know that walk to get their car with their keys between or bear spray in their hand or pepper spray, right? How many women do you know have crossed the street? How many, like we were joking the other day, and I mean, back in the day, in Toronto, I had a group of friends, and we had a local bar, like a pub, Roxanne, that we would go to. Roxanne she's got discussions in her books about what's a bar and what's a pub, but we would go to a local bar, and now I've lost my train of thought, but it was like, there were people that would come in the bar, and immediately we're all like, something's wrong with, like, that some guy would come up to talk to you, and it was like we all had the look, and we were talking about JD Vance, and I was like, he's the guy in the bar that we would have been like, yeah, we're going to the other bar, right? Like there's always a point, and you always have to be, because women have a different vulnerability, right? And I'm not saying women can't be predators, but it's not a physical attack kind of thing typically. Yeah. Right. But it is like one of those, we've all got the creeps from somebody and had to change seats, or somebody wouldn't take no for an answer, or and it's like, I like that young women and young men are being taught that no means no. Right? Yeah. Because it is. I remember back in the day, it's like, well, if they say no, then you just start, doing these grand gestures. And it's like, I promise you, if you've said no, grand gestures just make you feel creeped out.
And this feeds right back into the loop where we started initially talking about, not initially, but purity culture early on, because the idea of the spontaneity of it. So if you were a young woman raised in purity culture, you definitely were not on the pill, because being on the pill implies intention.
So slut shaming.
So if you're on the pill, it better be because you have a bad complexion or you need to regulate your periods. But if you're on the, and so that's what people would say, right? Oh, well, I just have to regulate my periods, so that's why I'm on the pill. But if you were not on contraception, if you didn't have any contraceptive plan at all, but you were on the pill, well, that implies that you intended. So people that just fell into sin because of the spontaneity of it, it happens, it's bad, it's terrible. You sure better damn well hope you don't get pregnant because of it. But it could be forgiven. But the intent ahead of time, that was another thing. That's was a whole other
fascinating
thing. So that would be well, she's a slut. She's on the pill. Well, she's a slut. She's going to have sex with everything. Right? That was the implication. So you were absolutely discouraged from using contraception.
We're going to have to talk about slut shaming, because I got a whole rant about what the right media, like the Fox News, have done to Taylor Swift around slut shaming.
Ooh.
Right? So
and there was cats.
Oh God, the whole freaking single cat lady thing.
I love cats. I don't have a
love
cat
cats
right
too.
now. I would really, I almost got a foster kitten last week. That gray one.
Oh,
That
one?
that Susan found.
Somebody found it.
Renata's got it, and she found a home for it. But I was this close. I was this close, and I told my husband at the end of the day, I'm like, so I really restrained myself today, and he's like, good, because he knew exactly what I was talking about. I was ready to bring that kitten home, and if once it comes home, man, it is probably not leaving. So,
because how do you turn away that little face? Yeah. Okay, but honestly, let's just because we're almost we're overtime. We're 14
always,
minutes overtime.
We're always overtime.
But let's just talk about that for a little bit. Like, how foolish are you to take on? So first of all, not everybody. I'm single I'm childless. I'm single by choice. Damn it! Hey, Paul. By the way,
inform your husband.
Yes, but I am
Hey.
childless by choice, right? So not everybody is, right?
Yeah.
And to disparage, and then to disparage JD Vance, he was like, the Democrats, the country's run by a bunch of single cat ladies who are pretty much his inference was that they're all bat poop crazy. And also, if you don't have a family, he thinks that you shouldn't have the strongest vote. But the other side of that is so then he said that was sarcastic, and I like cats and dogs. And it was like, in fact, nobody took the cat thing seriously. What we took was that you think if you don't have a family, you are not worthy. Mm-hmm. And then his whole thing again doubled down again, and he keeps talking about how those of us who don't have children should have less influence on the economy. I pay taxes. I pay for schools. Wow. I pay for in BC. I help pay for childcare because some is subsidized. I am happy to do that because I think it is the responsibility of a good society to do that. And it's like, okay, JD Vance, you want us to then if we don't get that, we don't get as much as parents do. Then don't charge us as many taxes.
That's right.
Right. So if you've got 5 kids,
you don't get to have it both ways.
No. Right. But it's shocking. But also to think the world is better because there are those who chose to be parents and there are those who chose not to. Now, my heart breaks for those who wanted to be parents and who can't. And my heart breaks for them because I can't even imagine what that would feel like. But also, shut up. And also, he gets to say nothing. He's come out and said crappy things about Kamala Harris and her ethnicity because now Trump is saying she's not really black. He is married to a South Asian woman. His children are...
JD Vance is?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And my question is, Mrs. Vance, where are you in this? Why are you not speaking out?
No kidding.
But
does she have a cat?
Oh, we need to find that out. That's my new assignment. Okay, we need to stop this because I think we're going to get the maggots coming at us after this one.
You know what? We are who we are, and sometimes
and you take care of the underdog. Yeah, and I'll fight them.
Absolutely, that sounds good. So what are we grateful for? I know what I'm grateful for.
What?
I bought mortadella this week, and that means that is going on pizza in about an hour.
And okay, so I am grateful for Ray, my irritating brother, who helped us figure out what was wrong with the pizza oven.
I don't know if he actually did. We'll see. We'll see if it starts. We'll see.
It'll start. But
it wasn't starting last week.
He was actually quite gracious about that.
He was, and he could have not been.
Yes.
But he was on his way out to golf, so he was in a very happy place. He was in his
got to get them while they're
place.
Happy, man.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, I don't think we have a cliffhanger for this week because we already told you, so that's good. No. But so
we know our gratefuls.
We know our gratefuls. We're good.
They're basically, our gratefuls often revolve around pizza. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they do.
Also, if you have young people in your life, if they will be 18 by November and you're in the U.S., please get them to register to vote because they can vote. They just have to be 18 by November 5th.
November 5th.
Yes.
Okay.
So please get them to vote.
Yeah.
Also, maybe tell us about how you understand the assignment. That would be a good one.
I would love to know that. And I would also love to know if anybody else out there understands what purity culture is. Because I've talked about it a little bit on my websites and various places where I'm talking about my books these days, but I know I'm a very small subset of the conservative world, but I'm curious. Does anyone else understand?
You are a very small subset of someone who came from the conservative world.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Have you heard of that term before?
That would be interesting.
So anyway, tell us about that.
Yes, and how you understand the assignment, because it's a big, good assignment.
It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. Look at her grin.
It's time for women to rule the world, man.
Oh, man, finally. If only. If only.
Okay. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for being here.
Yep.